strongly. Last week we saw the third consecutive week of gains for the Australian share market. This week we're facing the fourth consecutive week. In fact, out of the last 11 weeks, 10 of those have been gains. So it's been an extremely good run, but it's not just the equity markets that have been running. We have a look at something like oil. Oil was up by 2% last week. It was the 8th consecutive week of gains for oil prices, and that's the longest run of gains that we've seen since 2004. Iron ore prices now at 153.20 US a tonne, so looking good. Of course, we saw the US stock market at 5-year highs, the Dow Jones Industrial Average breaking that 14,000 point mark. The job numbers were good at 157,000, but not only that, we saw two very strong revisions to the two previous months. And today is going to be a big day for the technical analysts. The level that we're watching is the 50% retracement level from the low that we saw back in 2009 and the high that we saw in 2007. And that's between 3,120 points to 6,821 points. And that stands at 4,986 points. And we're very close to that at the moment. If we do see a break of that, that would be a very bullish sign for the technical traders on the market. So watching that 50% retracement level. In terms of fundamentals, earnings season kicks off tomorrow, so we'll be watching that one. But last week we saw the financials running hard. Commonwealth Bank very close to a record high. We're watching that 68.10 level, and if we see a break of that, that would be a new record high for CBA.
AMP divested itself of its Asian assets, and the chatter about where that would leave it. It's been cut to a sell today from neutral by RBS, but the target price raised 18% to $5. You've got a view?
I guess if we have a look at where growth is, a lot of the global growth is going to come from Asia. So to have access to that type of growth is a positive for companies. So to be able to be actually exiting out of assets in that area, I guess a negative. Having said that, you know, the wealth managers have been doing extremely well in the market. AMP, Perpetual, Platinum Asset Management, Magellan Financial Group, all these stocks have rallied hard. And that's because we have seen the market turning. The market has been a good one. We've seen volume starting to return to the market, so that's been a huge positive. It's not only been those wealth managers that have been gaining. We already mentioned the banks, and Commonwealth Bank has just hit a new all-time high this morning. It's just hit above that 65.10 mark that we were watching, which represents an all-time record high, and this is in an environment where we are seeing relatively low growth. So it does look like that stocks are running quite hard on expectations that perhaps in the current financial year that we will see relatively low growth, but we're going to see a strong rebound in FY14, and that's really reflected in the consensus numbers. This week's going to be a massive one for the Australian share market, and that's because we see the half-year earnings season kicking off tomorrow. If we have a look at the consensus view for the full year, it is with just 3% growth, and that's down from about 10% just 6 months ago. But if we have a look at the next financial year, FY14, well, growth expectations there are still around about 11%. So I think one of the things and one of the themes that we'll see starting from tomorrow is relatively weak earnings growth, but an expectation of a strong rebound in FY14, and that's really been a strong driver of stocks like the material stocks, the cyclical stocks, the media companies. Tomorrow we'll see Cochlear kicking off earnings, as well as Navitas and Transurban coming out, and the big one to watch there is Cochlear, and that's because Cochlear is on both Citi as well as Goldman Sachs underperform list and potential underperformance for this particular earnings season. If we have a look at Cochlear, it's been hit by that Nucleus 5 recall, but the stock's run quite hard. In the last 52 weeks, we've seen the stock up by around about 40%. We're expecting to see just over a $22 million profit being announced tomorrow, but it's going to be a massive week for Australian stocks. And I think one of the key themes emerging will be that very weak earnings growth in the current financial year, but expectations of that very strong rebound in the next one.